Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Insomnia, and tonight we're going down a rabbit hole you might not be ready for. These aren't just ghost stories, these are very real, chilling, documented and still completely unexplained cases. People who have disappeared into thin air, messengers that no one has ever been able to make sense of, deaths that defy any and all logic. We like to think the world makes sense, that science, evidence, and reason can explain everything. But these four stories, they don't exactly play by those rules. These are the kinds of mysteries that crawl under your skin and stay there. So get yourself comfortable, or don't, because once you hear them, you'll never forget them. It was shortly after midnight on May 14th, 2008, when 19-year-old Brandon Swanson called his parents from the side of a rural road in Minnesota. He sounded calm, a little annoyed but not scared. His car had gone off the road into a ditch near the tiny town of Lind, and he needed help getting home. He told his parents he wasn't hurt. He even said, "I'll wait by the car," while they drove out to meet him. But when they arrived, there was no sign of Brandon or his vehicle. They called him back, and he answered. For 47 minutes they stayed on the phone while he tried to guide them to his location. "I can see lights," he said, thinking he was near the town of Lind. "Just come get me." But they couldn't find him, and strangely, he couldn't see their headlights either. The phone call continued with Brandon staying calm, even cracking jokes. But then, a sudden exclamation, "Oh shit!" The line went dead. Brandon's parents called back over and over again. No answer. That would be the last time anyone ever heard from Brandon Swanson. The next morning, the police tracked down his car, but here's the first twist. It wasn't anywhere near Lind, not even close. It was found near the town of Taunton, almost 25 miles northwest from where he said he was. Authorities were baffled. Brandon knew the area well. He'd just finished his first year of college and had grown up in Marshall, only a few miles away. He wasn't drunk or on drugs, so how did he get lost? Search crews, dogs, helicopters and volunteers combed the area for days, then weeks. Cadaver dogs picked up a scent that led to the Yellow Medicine River, a shallow rocky stream. The scent appeared across the river, but vanished on the other side. If Brandon had drowned, his body likely would have been found, but nothing ever was. No phone, no clothes, no wallet, no footprints, no blood. Over the years, theories have piled up. Did Brandon fall into the river and get swept away? Unlikely. This was because he was an excellent swimmer, and the river was only a few feet deep in most places. Was he injured and lying somewhere nearby? But they searched everywhere. Was he picked up? Abducted? Did someone silence him after the call cut out? The most unsettling detail was that final "oh shit" on the phone to his parents that was never explained. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't say what he saw. It sounded like he saw something, or someone, and just like that he was gone. To this day, there have been no confirmed sightings, no phone activity, no bank withdrawals, nothing. Brandon Swanson simply vanished into thin air in the middle of rural Minnesota. His parents, Annette and Brian, have turned their grief into advocacy. They lobbied for new legislation, Brandon's Law, which now requires law enforcement to take missing adult cases more seriously, even if foul play isn't immediately suspected. But the law doesn't bring closure. Every year on May 14th, his family holds a vigil near the site of his disappearance. Locals report a sense of unease in the area, as if something lingers there. Some believe Brandon never left. Others think he did, but not by choice. In an age of satellites, smartphones, and endless digital footprints, how can someone vanish off the face of the earth with no trace? Brandon Swanson walked into the night, and the silence that followed has never been broken. They were experienced, smart, young, the kind of people who didn't panic in the wild. In January of 1959, 9 Soviet hikers set off into Russia's frozen Ural Mountains. Their goal was simple: reached the peak of Ortorton, but they never made it. What happened to them? Deep in the snow-covered wilderness of what is now known as Dyatlov Pass has become one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in modern history. A mystery soaked in blood, frostbite, and fear. What began as a well-documented expedition by a group of fit, experienced students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute quickly developed into a waking nightmare. After several days of trekking through extreme conditions, the team set up camp in the eastern slope of Kholat Sakil, a name that, chillingly enough, translates to Mountain of the Dead in the local Mansi language. That night, something happened, something that made all 9 of them tear their way out of their tent from the inside and flee barefoot into the freezing darkness, where temperatures dropped below to negative 30 degrees. When rescuers found the abandoned camp weeks later, the tent was shredded, not from the outside, but slashed open from within, as if the hikers were desperate to escape something. Shoes, coats, all left behind. The snow was littered with footprints, showing the group scattered in multiple directions. Some tried to head towards the tree line, some didn't make it far at all. And then they began to find the bodies. First, 2 men lying near a fire pit beneath a cedar tree, both barefoot, in underwear, their skin frozen blue. Broken branches above suggested one of them had tried to climb, possibly to escape, or to get a better look at whatever was following them. 3 more corpses were discovered in poses suggesting they had been crawling or staggering back to the tent, faces frozen in grimace, hands blistered from frostbite. But the final 4 bodies, that's where the horror escalated. It took 2 more months before searchers found them, buried underneath 12 feet of snow deep within the forest. Their injuries were far worse. 1 woman had her tongue missing, another had crushed ribs. 1 man's skull was fractured so violently it was compared to a car crash. Yet, there were no signs of external wounds, no cuts, no bruises, just pulverized bones, like something had crushed them from the inside. No animal tracks, no avalanche signs, no explanation. The Soviet government launched an investigation but quietly closed it, listing the cause of natural death as a compelling natural force. That's it. That vague, that final, that suspicious. Years later, newly declassified files only deepened the mystery. Radiation was found on some of the hikers' clothing. Locals reportedly seeing strange orange lights in the sky the night of the tragedy, moving too fast for planes, too erratic for meteors. Some even claimed the military was testing experimental weapons nearby. Then came the wilder theories: a Yeti attack, secret KGB missions, infrasound included madness, UFOs, portal to another dimension. All of them sound absurd until you look at the evidence, until you imagine 9 capable young people ripping themselves from the only shelter they had and running half naked into a blizzard. Something terrified them, something not human, or at least not natural. And the most unsettling part? We still don't know what it was. No conclusive cause, no evidence of murder, no survivors, just a mystery so grim and bizarre it almost feels like a warning. So if you ever find yourself high in the mountains, snow crunching beneath your boots, wind howling in your ears, remember the Dyatlov 9, and if you can hear something moving in the white silence, don't run, because it didn't save them. On the morning of February 5th, 1923, Brazilian authorities received a report from a neighbouring village that something was wrong with Hora Verde, a small, self-sufficient settlement deep within the dense forest of northern Brazil. The town had gone silent. No one had heard from them in weeks. Traders stopped arriving. No messengers came through the jungle paths. This wasn't entirely unusual. Hora Verde was remote after all, but something about the silence was wrong. A small team of lawmen and church officials was dispatched to investigate. When they arrived, the silence wasn't just unsettling, it was total. Jorge Verdi was gone. The homes were all still there, thatched roofs, wood and clay walls, clean pathways, and front doors hanging open. There were no signs of violence, no signs of panic, but not a single soul was in sight. Meals were still on tables, chairs pushed back as if someone had stood up suddenly. Fires in stoves were still warm. A goat was tied to a post, half-starved. The air smelled of old cooking and ash, not decay or blood. It looked like everyone had just stepped out and never returned. Inside the one-room schoolhouse, a lesson was still scrawled across the chalkboard in Portuguese. On the teacher's desk, a grading sheet with names of children that would never be seen again. And in the village chapel, cold, silent and hollow, someone had carved a single word on the door: "I will return." But who wrote it, and who were they speaking for? Initial investigation yielded no signs of forced exit. There were no footprints leading into or out of the village beyond the arriving party. The jungle had not yet reclaimed the land, and there had been no major weather events to wash away evidence. Yet 600 people, men, women and children, had completely disappeared. No bodies, no belongings, no explanations. What investigators did find, however, was strangely curated absence. Weapons were missing, journals, letters, and religious textures were gone. Personal keepsakes had vanished. It was as if someone had selectively removed everything that could provide a motive or a memory. Jorge Verdi has become a legend and a cautionary tale whispered through Brazil, but for decades investigators pursued real answers. Here are the leading theories that emerged. Some suggest the military conducted a covert operation or chemical experiment near the area. The entire village, they say, was relocated or silenced. There are even whispers of biological tests gone wrong, but there are no records to support this. Official military archives, both Brazilian and international, offer no acknowledgement that Jorge Verdi ever existed, as if it was erased. Another theory revolves around cult behaviour. Investigators later uncovered accounts of nearby towns that spoke of dark missionaries, listing Jorge Verdi in the months prior. These strangers preached of a new God, not one of love, but one of unity through oblivion. Some believe they convinced the town to leave everything behind, to vanish into the jungle in search of their salvation. No one ever found a camp, or a trail, or a single artifact. As the decades passed, theories became more unsettling. Was Jorge Verdi taken? Some locals believe that the jungle around the town is thin, a place where reality wears down, where the veil between this world and something else is weak. They claim the entire town was swallowed in a moment of spiritual collapse, not destroyed but transported. The word voltare takes on a new meaning in this context, not a warning but a promise. Jorge Verdi was declared an unsolved mass disappearance. Eventually, government interest faded and the jungle overtook what was left. Today, even finding the exact location of the village is difficult. Satellite imagery shows heavy vegetation, and any attempts to rediscover the site often lead in failure, confusion, or an inexplicable misdirection. Locals avoid the region entirely. They say the trees whisper when you get too close, that you can hear children giggling softly from somewhere deep inside, that at night a light appears between the branches like something holding a lantern, and if you follow it, you'll never come back. There's no way to quantify what happened to Jorge Verdi. No real evidence, no mass grave, no confirmed survivors. Just one quiet jungle clearing and a story that has outlived every investigator who tried to solve it. There is one thing that is certain. Something took Jorge Verdi and whatever it was, it said it would return. I still remember the headline: Teen's body found on beach, foul play not suspected. Just another tragic accident, right? But as I dug deeper into the story of Kurt McFall, a 17-year-old honors student and Boy Scout from El Sobrante, California, I realized nothing about his death made sense, and the further I went, the more disturbing the questions became, questions that still don't have any answers, even decades later. It was September 1984. Kurt had just started his senior year of high school. He was a smart, polite, artistic, kind kid, the kind who didn't get themselves into trouble. That weekend, he told his parents he was going to visit friends in San Francisco and maybe sleep over at a friend's place in Concord. Nothing strange there. Kids do that all the time. But Kurt never came home. 2 days later, his body was found at Point Reyes, a remote coastal area nearly 50 miles from where he had been last seen. He was naked. His clothes were neatly folded beside him. His backpack was nearby, intact and untouched. His body had no major injuries. The official ruling? Accidental drowning. But here's where it gets strange. His lungs had no water in them whatsoever. He didn't drown. In fact, the coroner couldn't even confirm how he died. His body showed signs of being dragged and bruised, but nothing conclusive. No defensive wounds, no clear cause, just dead on a beach without reason. This is where Kurt's story takes a dark turn. In the weeks leading up to his death, Kurt had started exploring a medieval role-playing game called the Society of Created Anarchism, or CSA. To outsiders it looked like harmless fun, costumes, sword plays, reenactments, but Kurt was reportedly invited to private gatherings tied to a more secretive offshoot of the group. Some accounts say this breakaway faction had connections to occult rituals, blood ceremonies, and even mind control experiments. Whether that's true or just rumor is impossible to verify. But Kurt's father, a former military man, strongly believed his son had gotten involved with people who wanted to keep him quiet. If Kurt drowned, why were his lungs dry? Why did he remove his clothes, fold them, and lay them down like he planned to come back? Why was no alcohol or drugs ever found in his system? Why didn't he have any signs of falling, bruising, or any trauma consistent with slipping on rocks? Even more bizarre, the people Kurt was supposed to be with that night gave conflicting stories. One said he was dropped off at a BART station. Another claimed he left to go explore, but police never followed this up. And just like that, the case was closed. Kurt's father spent years digging for answers. He spoke to journalists, investigators, even fringe cult researchers, but every door led to a dead end. Some say he was warned to stop asking questions. Others claimed he was followed. Eventually, the case grew cold, and the McFall family stopped speaking to the press altogether. There are no public updates or breakthroughs, just a quiet, unspoken sadness that hovers over the whole story. The first theory of this is an accidental fall. The cliffs at Point Reyes are dangerous for sure, but Kurt had no broken bones, and his body didn't match a fall victim. His folded clothes suggest he willingly went into the water, or was prepared to be in nature. Suicide is another theory as well, but there was no note, no warning signs. Friends also said he was excited about his whole life. His journal, which police barely reviewed, included drawings and medieval poetry, nothing depressive. Another theory that's been thrown out there as well is occult involvement. This is where things get murky. Several offshoot groups around the Bay Area in the 80s practiced stoic rituals. Some were linked to disappearances but were never confirmed. Was Kurt a curious teen in the wrong place at the wrong time? The darkest theory on this list is for sure murder. With no cause of death and evidence seemingly ignored or lost, it's impossible to know. but many, including Kurt's own father, believe this theory. The Kurt McFall case is one of the rare mysteries that feel both personal and mythic. It's not just about a boy who died, it's about the possibility that something dark and carefully hidden took him away. Why? That part we may never know, but if you find yourself walking the shores of Point Reyes at night and you see a figure in medieval armor standing by the rocks, you might want to turn around, because some stories don't end, they just get covered up. Thank you for watching. If this kept you up tonight, just wait until the next one. My name is Dr. Insomnia, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, subscribe, like, share with your friends, and don't look behind you.